Mr. Tele Ayo Bankole. I hope so of course, is a certified family systems engineering coach, a certified church and business administrator, a US trained process developer. I love that. An experienced and well accomplished business developer of over 8 years. A YouTuber, yes, yes, yes. He is a YouTuber who uses his voice to guide people in living a life of significance. A researcher currently pursuing a second degree in psychology. As a life transitions expert, he combines all these skills and experience to coach people in making significant shifts in their life, relationship, and business. Ladies and gentlemen, please do make welcome no other than this sensational, amazing, remarkable personality in person of our very own Mr. Dele Ayo Bankole. If you are excited, if I don't see you excited, I'm not going to bring him up. So if you're excited, let me see you share the excitement bugs. Woo! Okay, so you have to clap. How do you do clap? Okay, so clap, put your hands together as we bring him up on the platform. And okay, so before he comes up, I'd like to just quickly say this. While he is taking his session, I'd like to encourage that you take notes. This is Mindshift, okay? So I want to believe that the people who are participating in this seminar, are smart-minded people. So take notes, ask intelligent questions, because after his session, we would take questions, all right? We're going to have a time for Q&A. So I expect that you would ask intelligent and live situation kind of questions, all right? So right about now, I'm going to bring up our very own speaker for tonight in person of Mr. Dele Ayo Bankole. All right. Over to you, sir. Pastor Ayo, good evening. Good evening, sir. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Pleasure being with you on the show today. I hope I am audible enough.
Yeah, please. If he's audible, please say that in the comment box below so that he can go ahead. Can you
All
hear
right. So,
Mr. Dele Ayo Bankole, please, everyone? Okay, if you can hear him, just mention that in the comment box so he knows that you can hear him, please. Fantastic. Someone is already saying, welcome, sir. Okay, can you hear him?
beautiful.
Fantastic. Yeah, they can
Yeah.
hear you, sir.
Well done, Uche. Amazing job you're
Thank you,
doing.
sir.
That was
Thank you, sir.
amazing. Amazing
Thank you,
video,
sir.
amazing intro, and of course,
Thank
you've got an amazing vision to be able to help people, manage some phases in their lives. That's so amazing. I want to say thank you for all that you do. You're just an
you, sir.
inspiration, and it's. I also find it a privilege to be with you on the
Thank
show tonight.
you.
So thank you to everyone who's been hanging
Thank
on
you.
since about 6 p.m. West African time.
Thank
I will just zap through my session. I have a very limited time now because I'm supposed to be in another engagement a few minutes after now. So I'll just try to zap through the session. I'm talking about Mindshift. This is Mindshift 2020, and I've decided to caption what I want to talk about beyond 2020. All right, beyond 2020, how to maximize disruptions beyond 2020. Let me turn away my backlight. It seems it's entering into my camera. Okay, yeah. I hope it's better now. Yeah, good. So so let's talk about mind shifts beyond 2020, how to maximize disruptions. when we all started this year 2020, I know that for many of us, we had some amazing ideas about the kind of life we wanted to live in 2020. We set our goals. Many of us were excited. Wow, it's the beginning of a new decade. We just can't wait to experience what the year is going to give to us. But somewhere in between the first and the second month, something happened. We Many of us call it COVID. But the more I think about what is happening around us, the more I think about the issues and the challenges, the more I realize that it is not really a virus that we are battling with, because this is not the first time that that an element in nature will be introduced into the world, and that will transform the way we interact as human beings. So this has always been on, and it is not going to be the last one. I can assure you of that there will be more and more transformations that we are going to experience as humans in the years to come. So what I want to talk about is, how can you maximize disruptions as a person? What do you do to be able to maximize disruptions? That's what we will be talking about in a few minutes. I have about 15-20 minutes to talk about the things I want to talk about. So let me start from the video that we just watched, the fact that your mindset is very important. Many of the things that we will experience in life will be a direct product of our thought patterns. Whatever you think about most of the time will eventually find expression in your life. It's a matter of time. I used to tell people that there is nothing in life that is called slip of tongue. Maybe you said something, I don't know if you have ever experienced that you say something and then you say, oh, it's a slip of tongue, I'm sorry. The truth is that there is nothing called slip of tongue. The only thing is that the words came out at a time you least expected, but you must have thought about it before. You cannot by slip of tongue speak Chinese. You cannot by slip of tongue speak Mandarin or speak Spanish, except you have learned the language. So if you cannot by mistake speak German or speak Spanish, if you have not learned their language, or speak Russian, the same way you cannot say something except you have first thought about it. So the same way you cannot experience something except you have first thought about it. So thoughts are powerful. Thoughts create things. Thoughts become realities, and that's where we're going to start from. So the first question then is, why are we in this phase, or why are we experiencing what we are seeing right now in our world today? Why are we going through this? So when I look at what is happening in 2020, one word I can give the whole thing is that we have entered into a phase of disruption. And like I said, this is not the first disruption. Disruption started from way back. From If we read through the history of creation, we have always had disruptions. For every disruption, there is always an event that precedes it. For those of us who are Christians, we can remember from the Judeo-Christian Bible, where the Bible says that God gave a man an instruction that you should not eat from a particular tree in the garden. But then man felt, why should I be denied this? So an event happened. Man ate the fruit God said he shouldn't eat. And then that kicked him out of that place to start another life. That was a disruption of the norm. The norm was for him to remain in that garden and enjoy all the benefits of that garden. But there was a disruption. He had to be kicked out of that place. So that event brought about a disruption. So if we read again, from the Judeo-Christian Bible, that from way back, those are some examples that we can find from history, from the creation of the world, from the beginning of creation. So There was another time a king was ruling, that was the pharaoh, and then some people were in court, were in slavery, were in bondage. And then there was an introduction into there was an event that happened that time, and there was a Moses that came up and brought about a disruption, which also brought about the end of the pharaoh, and which brought about the freedom of the Israelites. So you realize that disruptions have always happened from time immemorial. So let's bring it back to modern days. The first disruptions that happened brought about the industrial age, meaning that we started having machines, and then people started producing more products, in larger quantities. And that also meant that some people were going to lose their jobs, because that's what usually happens in every disruption. New things happen. So a disruption basically is an event that introduces the end of an era and the introduction of a new era. A disruption is an event that introduces us into a new era. So when we have this understanding, and this can happen to us as at an individual level, it can happen to us at a national level, it can happen to us at a continental level, it can happen to us at a global level. So COVID-19 is a disruption that has happened to us at a global level, but for so many of us, we also experience disruptions at individual levels. For example, when you finish secondary school, your life cycle becomes disrupted. You move into higher institution. If you are in Nigeria, for most people, when you get admission to higher institution, you are leaving your parents' house. For most people, that is a disruption, because then you now begin to think for yourself. You begin to take responsibility for yourself from that age onward. So nobody's going to wake you up to bathe and attend classes. When you're in secondary school, sometimes your parents will need to wake you up to get ready for school. But when you get admission, then you are on your own. You have to begin to live your life and get up and get things done. That is an event that has happened. When you graduate from school and you get a job, it's another phase of disruption. Okay, when you choose to get married, it's another phase of disruption. So those are events that introduce to you new things. Okay, so at every stage in our lives, we go through disruptions, and that is the truth. For every transition to happen, there must be an event that triggers the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. So COVID-19 has come to tell us that there is the end of an era and there is the beginning of a new era. So what I can say basically about 2020 is that it is the year of disruption. So why do people hate disruptions? Disruptions would always cost you something, because for every disruption, there is a change in the power equation. Like the example I used earlier, when you were in secondary school, your parents controlled the bulk of your decisions. When you gain admission into tertiary institution, the power equation changes. You control the things that you do. Of course, I know some parents are overbearing. They will call you 5 a.m. and say, have you woken up? Have you eaten? Have you cooked? Have you, some parents are overbearing, but for majority of the people, when you gain admission into the higher institution and you leave your parents' house, those decisions are left to you. That means that the power equation changes. The same way, if we look at what is happening, the introduction of COVID has taking power away from some people and move power to the ends of some people. So generally, people hate disruptions because it changes the power equation. For some people, they feel that they are not ready, they are not capable to undo the sudden shift in power that they now experience. So wow, so now I am this powerful, and some people are confused, like, I don't think I can undo this. So some people just don't like disruption, and for some other people, they don't want to lose that control. And that's why you see that some governments find it difficult to allow youth to find expression in their countries because they are afraid of losing power to the younger generation. So they want to remain in power. And that's just it. So disruptions always bring about a change in the power equation. And of course, some people hate disruptions because of the fear of the unknown. So, and in general, why all these fears is because of our wiring, the way we have been taught to see things, the way we have been taught to process information. So for you to maximize a disruption, for you to make the most of any disruption and be a part of the power equation and have a good chunk of power, because power is changing hands. So it is people who understand technology 4.0. Some call it industry 4.0. That's where we are now, the fourth industrial revolution. There's people who are equipped to be able to play in this new dispensation that have most of the power right now. All right. So so the question then is, how can you make the most of a disruption? That's basically what I want to talk about. So the first thing is awareness. Awareness means that you know what is happening. Remember, like I said, what is happening to us right now, it is not COVID-19. COVID-19 is the trigger. The trigger of an event is not the actual event. For those of you who probably understand programming, there are some commands in programming that we call triggers. Okay, so that when you do something, it triggers an event. So the trigger is not the event itself. The trigger is just to announce or introduce the event. So the same way, COVID-19 is not the event. COVID-19 is the trigger that brought us, that introduces to us the event, which is the disruption, the announcement of the new, the introduction of the new. And that is what has happened. So we need to be aware. If you are not aware of what is going on around you, people will just be complaining and murmuring, hey, I've lost my job. There is devaluation of the naira. The dollar is now 500 naira, and all of that. So people will just be complaining when they don't understand what exactly is happening. When they don't understand the event. So you need to be aware of the event. That's the first step to be able to maximize disruptions. What are those things that affect our level of awareness? Like I mentioned earlier, the first one is your wiring, the way you have been programmed to see and to interpret things. If you don't know how to correctly interpret things, then the meaning you will give to things will be different. And if the meaning you give things are different, your emotions will be different. And of course, your emotions affect your actions. So you need to be aware of your wiring. How do I interpret events? So try to take maybe like try to do an evaluation, a self-evaluation. Look at things that happen around you. Just introspect on things that are happening around you right now, and tell yourself, how do I interpret things? So look at some things that someone has done, or something that someone is doing to you, and then you're asking yourself, okay, how did I interpret this thing? So when you isolate 2-3 events like that, and then you can ask yourself, oh, okay, this is how I interpret things. So it helps you to be more conscious of the way you have been wired to see things. Another things you need to also be aware of are your worries. What are the things that make you fret? What are the things that make you afraid? What are the things that make you feel like, oh, this is the end of the world. I don't think I can make it. I don't think I can do it. Remember from the video that was shared earlier, the fact that whatever it is that you say to yourself, you will eventually experience it. They call it autopilot. Your mind is designed to run on autopilot. So if the autopilot is positive, then you are on a cruise to a life of bliss. But if the autopilot is negative, I can assure you it's going to take a whole lot from you. So there is that part of understanding what are your worries, what are the things that you naturally worry about. It helps you to understand, to gain more awareness. Another thing that helps you to gain awareness is your why. WHY. Why? What is your why? Why do you see life the way you see life? What is your purpose? What is your reason for doing the things that you do? All of these things require some level of sincerity. You have to be sincere with yourself. What is your motivation? What drives you? What powers you? Those are questions that you need to ask yourself as a person. They help you to understand to gain more awareness as a person. What is your why? And of course, what is your what exactly are you pursuing? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to become in life? What do you see yourself becoming? Or who do you see yourself becoming? Those are questions that help you to know your wiring, to know why you do things the way you do them, and of course your ways. What ways have you unconsciously created for yourself? How do you process things, and that affects the way you do things? What is your natural way of doing things? So once you have an idea of all of these things, then it helps you to be able to understand that, okay, now this exactly is what is happening. Those questions, your wiring, your worries, your why, your who, your what, your ways, those are things that help you to be able to correctly gain awareness of what is happening to you and around you, because success is first within before it is without. When you win the battle on the inside, then it is easier, fairly easier for you to be able to win the battle from your outside. So the next step to maximizing disruption is to accept. Okay, the first one, you are aware. The next step is to accept that something has happened. You need to accept that life is not the way it used to be. You need to accept that this is what you have been doing to yourself that is not helpful for you. You need to accept that you are not the person, that the person you are right now will not deliver to you the promises of the future that you envisage. So until you have the acceptance, you will keep struggling between what is and what will be. And the more disconsonance that you have between what is and what will be, the more difficult it is for you to be able to attract into yourself the resources, the people, and everything that you need to be able to actualize that desired future that you see for yourself. That's why I titled this Beyond 2020. So to maximize the disruption, you need to accept that something is not the way it used to be. Don't fight it. Governments that are fighting COVID, that are fighting the reality, those governments are way behind. What some other nations are doing is to turn around the way they operate, to turn around the things that they do so that they can take advantage of the situation. You don't fight an event, you don't fight a trigger, you react appropriately to the event and say, okay, so this has come, this has happened, so where are we going next? Where are we moving to next? What is the future going to look like? And then you begin to prepare yourself for it. For example, many nations are now producing cars that do not run on oil. Whereas in Africa and many on some other underdeveloped countries, they are still killing themselves over oil. when nations are already thinking. I saw a documentary yesterday, or was yesterday or 2 days ago, that as at last year, already there are over 1 million cars that do not run on oil. There are over 1 million cars. So I don't know. I've not seen the recent update for 2020, but as at last year, there are over 1 million cars that do not run on oil. That is, they run on electricity, electric cars. So we're going to be having more and more of that as the years go by. So meaning that the oil that many nations are killing themselves over is a matter of time will soon become obsolete, will soon become maybe oil will be for some other uses, but I can guarantee you that people use oil more for cars and for cars and automobiles. So that acceptance is what helps to be able to take the next step, which is to adapt. So you are aware, you accept what is, and then you adapt accordingly. You don't fight what is. That's a problem. What is what is. This is what is. There is a pandemic. You don't fight the pandemic. You adapt yourself. Okay, so one of the ways some of us have adapted is by using face masks, is by maintaining social distance and all of that. But of course, it's beyond that. Okay, so you need to adapt yourself as an individual. When you find yourself in a disruption, you don't fight it like, oh, I wish things continue the way they used to be. Things cannot be the way they used to be once a disruption happens. People who refuse to adapt always find themselves in the past. So when you realize that you are always talking about your past, you are always talking about your ex, you are always talking about your past mistakes, you are always talking about the opportunities you miss, you are always talking about the places you could have gone to, your would have, your should have, your could have. If that is what forms most of your vocabulary, that means that you have not learned to adapt to the new situation. Okay, so you must learn to adapt. And a higher dimension, which is the fourth dimension, is to adopt. Okay, so you are aware of what is happening. You move to the level of acceptance. You accept what is happening. Then you adapt to what is happening. And then number four is that you adopt new ways of doing things. And of course, the height of adoption is not just to consume what other people have created, but to also add your voice to the creation. All right. So what that means is that when you adopt the new ways of doing things, then you are also thinking of how you can also be a part of the disruption. The truth is that there are people who create the disruption. When internet broke open in the 70s and the 80s, it introduced people to a new level of doing things that people never knew could happen. All right, let's take, for example, in Nigeria, there was something that happened a few weeks ago. It's still very fresh in our memories. The protest. Before now, the government of Nigeria have always found a way of suppressing information and ensuring that things don't go out of onto the media. But then the social media made this possible. They didn't see it coming. So what they would have normally killed within the Nigerian space went global. They didn't see it coming, and that's why they're fighting. They want to do a social media bill. They want to call people from sharing information, and all of that, So, and then a lot of reports started coming. They said that a live video is doctored. So the point is, how do you doctor a live video? You are in a place, and then something is happening, and you are covering it live, and they say it's doctored. So that is people not adopting new ways of doing things. So you need to adopt. And in adopting, the height of adoption is that you also begin to create things. So you are not just a consumer. Okay, there are people who adopt as consumers. Okay, this is the thing they say we should be doing. Okay, so everybody, let's start doing it. But then you move to another level where you now become a part of those who create the disruption, meaning that you are now adding your own ideas, you are now adding your own thoughts, you are now adding your own content to shape the narrative, to shape the way people think, to shape the way people see things. At that point, you realize that you are also controlling power. Then a portion of the power is also coming to you, and that is how you go about it, so that you can maximize a disruption. Like I said, I'm going to have another meeting just about now, so I will have to stop now so that we can take questions and answers. So remember, a disruption is an event that introduces the end of an era and the beginning of a new era. And like I said also, that people hate disruptions because disruptions always introduces a change in the power equation. And for you to be able to maximize a disruption, these four things you must understand. Awareness, you need to know what exactly is happening, not at the face value, but exactly what is happening, not the trigger, but the actual event. Then number two is that you need to accept what is happening. Don't fight what is happening. Number three is for you to adapt your mind, adapt your ways so that you can benefit from what is happening. And number four, adopt, okay? Adopt new ways of doing things. And adoption also means that you are also a part of the disruption. So you begin to add your voice, you begin to add your content, you begin not just to consume, but to also contribute. And once you begin to do this steadily, I tell you, you are also controlling power and things begin to flow in your direction. So I have to stop now. Let me take questions. So thank you so much for having me tonight, Uche. I still have about 10 minutes to take Q&A, and then we can go on from there. All right, Uche.
Wow, this is powerful. Come on now, Pastor Ayo, thank you. Wow, guys, isn't that powerful? Thank you so much. My God. Let me quickly reiterate some of the things you talked about. So you said that so a disruption is the end of an event, or an event that marks the end. Okay, so let me get that correctly. A disruption is an event that marks the end of an era and marks the beginning
Yeah.
of a new one. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
means, and then for you to be in the know, you have to be aware that what is happening is a disruption and you do not need to fight it. And then once you're aware, you accept it. You accept it, and then after you have accepted it, you now adapt to it, right? Am I correct? Yeah, you
Yeah.
adapt to it,
Very well.
and
Very
then you
well.
adopt it. So adoption is that point where you begin to, you now get involved and begin to create things and begin to be part of the disruption. Incredible, incredible. Wow, amazing. Pastor, this is amazing. Like my mind is just opened right now and I'm just thinking, no wonder some things, no wonder, I'm finding myself doing this now and all. Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so Pastor has just less than 10 minutes to go. If you have questions, put down your questions in the comment section and I'll quickly put it up. But meanwhile, I'd like to find out, Pastor, so people are still finding it very difficult to even understand what is happening. A lot of people still believe that, this is end time, basically, Jesus is going to come very soon. So everything you're doing right now, you have to be very careful. Some people are not even they're not even ready to accept because they're not even aware of what is happening. They're still living in the past way, of doing things and all, like you mentioned of our leaders. So how do we help people? Especially people who just feel that, see, these things are, devilish, so to say. There are just some people who are behind this and it's going to pass. Sincerely, you and I know that some people are still believing that things are going to get back to normal, but we know that that's far from the truth. But how do we get people to become even aware, that, okay, this is it, and this is your new reality, and then pull along?
Well, from like what you said, that some people are fighting it. The truth is that not everyone would be a part of the power. Okay, not everyone will be. Yeah, I can see a question now. Mitchell is saying
Yeah.
that how can convince my dad to stop living in the past.
In the
Okay.
past, something related
Yeah, it's
okay,
quite related.
continue.
So, Mitchell, I'll try and answer your question with my explanation. So,
All right.
remember I said something that whenever there's a disruption, one of the signs of disruption is that there is a change in the power equation. So, when Nigeria asked for independence in 1960, the power changed from the colonial masters, like we call them, into the hands of our own people here. Of course, not much has changed even after that, because the structure that the colonialists left behind is still favoring them. Of course, it takes people who understand history to understand why we are still here. Okay, and if you look at it, it's like an African thing, because most of the nations in Africa were colonized. So there's a structure that these guys left behind, that that even though we are independent in code, but some schools of thought call it neo-colonialism. So it is still us running things, but then it is the people that are controlling the power. And that is why we are still where we are today. Why it looks like we cannot do anything on our own is because of that power equation. So some people don't just want to understand that power is changing, and so people like that would always keep wishing, they will always keep wanting, they will always keep desiring that things just go back to the way it has always been. And that means that people like that don't understand that power is changing hands. Some other people are becoming more powerful. 10 years ago, how many billionaires do we have all over the world? But today, the internet has made it very possible. Technology has made it very possible for people to just blow, like we say here,
True, very true.
almost overnight. Okay, so that's the change in power equation that people need to understand. So for Mitchell, one of the things you can do for dad, if your dad is willing, you can introduce him to some of these videos, like the one Uche played the other time. If you can get some videos online that talks about the disruptions that have happened, so that he can see it for himself. If you are a student of research, if you're given to research, I believe your dad probably loves reading. You can introduce to him some materials that explain what has happened, explain what is happening, and why people need to move on. You just can't wish that, oh, how I wish I have this, how I wish I have that. So, and of course, for so many people, they are just not willing because they don't want to pay the price of adoption. When you get to the point of adoption, there are a lot of prices to pay. You need to start thinking, how can I be a part of this new move? Some people are just okay with maintaining the status quo. And the way life is, no matter how hard you try, you cannot help everyone. So you can only
True.
as much as change yourself. So what I would advise Mitchell is for you to keep living that life, keep living in the reality of the new, and keep getting results in the reality of the new. Over time, your dad would see that what he had always held on to is not going to help him in any way. And then he may begin to listen to you when he sees that you understand what you're saying. Why is this important? If you are bent on changing him, you will realize that you may also be stopping yourself, because then unconsciously
Exactly.
you're telling yourself that until this man changes, I will not change. So you see this a lot among married couples. All right, you see this happen a lot among married couples, where the husband or the wife is saying, if my husband changes, me too, I will change. If my wife changes, me too, so if you keep waiting for your spouse to change, if you keep waiting for your dad to change, or for your partner to change, or for your friend to change, you will realize that your own growth will be stalling. So the nice thing to do is to show people the way. Leaders show the way. Leaders go the
That's
way.
right.
So you
That's
you
right.
show them the new, and begin to have results in the dimension of. Once you begin to command results in the dimension of the new, it's a matter of time that they now begin to follow you and say, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about, and they can follow you in that new dimension. That's just what I'll
Wow,
say.
wow, wow, wow. Amazing, amazing. That's powerful. I think this just caps it all up, talking about the adoption part. I mean, nobody can deny result, Pastor. Nobody can deny result. Once you come up with, of course, when you start out to do something, people think you're crazy, people think you're stupid, people think you're,
Yeah.
insane. But once the results begin to show, nobody ever denies the result. That's way you can now sit down to begin to teach and begin to say, okay, so this is how to go about it, and people would listen to you.
Yeah.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Mr. Ayo, or Pastor Ayo, allow me to call you Pastor Ayo. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. I have been very blessed. So, but we need to allow you go. I'm sure we don't have any other question. We need to allow you go. We are glad and grateful that you were able to honor our invitation. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank
And
you. Thank you so
to have a
much.
very beautiful evening ahead, sir.
You're doing an amazing job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Everyone
sir.
have
All
to
right.
exit.
Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. Bye.